there and welcome to this new series called Football Rants on the channel. It's just going to be a place for me to vent, to rant, to get things off my chest. It's not going to be a regular series with a regular schedule. It's just going to be irregular, a bit like me, and it's just somewhere for me to vent. I get frustrated. You talk to people, you talk to friends, you talk to family, you talk to people at work, and you vent and you rant and you just think, you know, I need to get it out there. So today we are going to start with the Premier League, and we are going to start with the postponements that we have seen going on because of COVID. It's becoming a joke. It's becoming an absolute farce. The clubs are taking advantage of a loophole in the Premier League's rules, and we should put the blame where it firmly lies here. And it is with the Premier League and with their rules that you can count AFCON, you can count injuries, you can count suspensions, as well as COVID for having a game postponed. You can apply for a game. You've got to have, is it 13 players plus a goalkeeper? And then that's the minimum number. If you have less than that, and that's senior players. If you have less than that, then you can apply to have the game postponed on a match-by-match basis. Each situation is taken on its own merits. That all sounds well and good until you get to, and it's going to be a little bit of a dig out of Arsenal. Now, we all know they got the North London derby postponed at the weekend, much to Tottenham's anger and to Antonio Conte's bafflement, and much to my anger. Now, I live in Berkshire and work in London, so there's a lot of Arsenal fans around in my life, and you know, they're vocal, they're defending the club, saying we're only digging it out because it's Arsenal, it's been happening for weeks, and because Arsenal suddenly do it, we're suddenly digging them out, and it's because they're, you know, the biggest club to be doing it, and whatever. It's not about that. The problem is, for me, with Arsenal is you've let Folarin Balogun go out on loan to Middlesbrough. You've let Ainsley Maitland-Niles go out on loan to Roma. You're about to let Pablo Mari go out on loan. You've just terminated Sead Kolasinac's contract. And then you're complaining you've got not enough players to fulfil a fixture because you've got one COVID case. You've got 2-3 players away at AFCON. All right, Aubameyang has come back with some potentially scary health issues. It wasn't in the squad anyway. It's just, the loophole is there. That's fair enough. It's the same as players, isn't it? Trying to get other players booked, or, you know, trying to get away with little things on the pitch. I get it. It's the same thing, but it's just making a mockery of the greatest league in the world. By the way, greatest league in the world? We've got a team that's 11 points clear, that's won 100 games in a row. It's other than Ligue 1, there's no other league where there's a lead like that. So, best league in the world? Really? But just look at the state of it. The amount of games played. I mean, you've got Chelsea there who've played more than anybody on 23. You've got clubs around them on 21, 22. Arsenal on 20. Tottenham on 18 games. Leicester City have only played 18. And I'll get onto them in a minute. And again, it'll be digging out the Premier League. At the bottom, Burnley have got 17 games under their belt. Yes, they're terrible. They've won 1 out of 17. By the way, how the hell does Sean Dyche survive that? It's 1 win in 17. Seriously, I know. He's been there for years. He's part of the furniture. But guys, come on. 1 win in 17. Jesus, how bad does it have to get? But the table is just false, isn't it? It makes a false reading. I mean, Burnley they've got to fit in 6 games. Where the hell are they going to put 6 games? 6 extra games, and that's just now. That's not including postponements that are going to happen between now and March and April and the end of the season, because more games are going to get called off. It's going to happen because of this stupid guideline that the Premier League have. They need to change. I don't know if they can change it mid-season. I don't know if it unbalances things, if it makes things unfair, for want of a better word. That, you know, clubs with a club going forward, say Man United say if the Premier League change it, and Man United in a month's time have a similar situation to Arsenal now, and the league say, no, you've got to play. Well, that's not fair on Man United, is it? Because it's like, well, a few weeks ago you let Arsenal cancel, and we've got the exact same situation, and you're forcing us to play. So I don't know if the Premier League, even if they could, if they'd be willing to change this guideline. It does call into question when the hell is the season ever going to finish, because you've all got to play your final game of the season at the same time, on the same day. So Burnley have got to get these 6 games in before the end of May. And where is that going to happen? I have no idea. They're going to end up playing 3 or 4 games a week at this rate. Leicester City. And again, this makes a mockery of the Premier League. They were due to play, I think it was Norwich, and it might have been Watford, something like that, either side of their FA Cup tie. And they got the first Premier League game called off. They played at the weekend in the FA Cup third round. And then they got the midweek Premier League game afterwards called off. So, if you were able to play the FA Cup, why were you not able to put a team out for the 2 league games either side of it? And again, that just shows what a farce this all is. The FA, they laid down the law. They said, you will play these games. These games have to be played on this weekend. It blows my mind. It just boils my you-know-what that the Premier League are so gutless, so spineless, so weak, so scared of their clubs that they just bow to this, that they just say, yeah, that's fine, yeah, you've got 1 player down with COVID, yeah, that's fine, you don't have to play. The fact that they're allowing teams to use the African Cup of Nations, to use injuries and suspensions as a reason to apply to get a game called off. If that 1 player didn't have COVID, that North London derby would have gone ahead. Regardless of how many injuries you have, regardless of how many suspensions you've got, regardless of how many players you've got out playing in a stellar tournament in Africa. Those things happen. And that game would have gone ahead, but for 1 player who tested positive. How is that acceptable? That just makes the Premier League a laughing stock. In Spain, in La Liga, if you have five senior players, you play. You call up your under-12s if you need to. You fulfil those fixtures. There's not been a single game called off in Spain. I don't think there's been a game called off in the Bundesliga. I know Serie A had a bit of a rough patch, but they've tightened things up now. It's just a joke that clubs are managing to find this loophole and use it to their advantage. I mean, Chelsea have gone massively off the boil. You can see their form there on the Premier League's website on the table. They've just drawing game after game. Thomas Tuchel at the week after the game at Brighton said the players were knackered. They're just because they're continuously playing. You've got Marcelo Bielsa at Leeds. He has vehemently said he will never apply for a game to be called off. They've had games called off, but because of the other team. And they went down to West Ham, gave loads of kids experience and a first team debut. And they went down to West Ham, an informed West Ham, and beat them in a thrilling match. And it's just ridiculous that certain clubs are using this loophole, but 2 days before are sending players out on loan and releasing players, and it is ridiculous. Something has to happen. This isn't going to change. This situation is not going to change going forward. COVID's around. We're never going to get rid of it. I don't care what people say. It's going to be around in some form. You're going to end up with these positive tests. The Premier League, probably now from the start of next season, are going to have to say, no, if you've got 7, 8, 9 players, you play. Don't loan players out. If you've got COVID cases, don't loan players out. Play them. They're your players. Yeah, you're telling me that Folarin Balogun and Ainsley Maitland-Niles couldn't have done a job for you? Of course they could. Are you telling me that Premier League clubs don't have under-23 squads? We know full well they do, because they play in the Carabao Cup every bloody week. So we know they have these under-23 squads. If you're in a Premier League academy, or you're in the under-23 team, if you're a player in those teams, if you're a dad or a parent or an uncle or a family member, a friend of a player that's playing in an under-23 squad, what must you now be thinking? If you are one of the top players in your under-23s, but your club would rather get a game postponed than actually give you a game, what does that say about their confidence in you? If my lad, either of my lads, was in Arsenal, sorry, digging out Arsenal again, but this is the one that got me vexed. and because they're the ones loaning players out and releasing players, yet they're the ones saying they haven't got any players. But if my lad was in their academy, in their under-23 team, straight away I would have been banging on Mikel Arteta's door, metaphorically, obviously, because I probably wouldn't get anywhere near his office, but I would be straight onto the club saying, what the hell is going on? I am going to pull my kid out of this club because you've got no faith in him. You do not trust him to play. You do not trust him to sit on the bench. What is the point? Why is he here? Why is he at the club? What sort of message does it send to those players that are trying to make their way in the game, that have actually probably thought in the days leading up to it, Jesus Christ, we have the North London derby at the weekend. We've got players away on international duty. We've got some injuries. We've got a couple of suspensions. We've got a COVID case. I might actually get a game here. I might get 10 minutes off the bench. I might make my first team debut. No, because they're going to call the game off. That just must be so mentally soul destroying for these young guys that are coming up and trying to get a pathway into the club. Far too many already fall through the cracks because clubs would rather sign someone from abroad or from Brazil, or they would rather spend 100 million quid on Declan Rice, or instead of bringing their own Declan Rice through or their own Harry Kane through, they would rather go and spend the money. And this is the perfect time for clubs, to give these young players a chance, give them a start, even put them on the bench just to experience a first team match, the atmosphere, what it's like to be on the bench, what it's like to see the VAR in operation, what it's like, to see the opposition managers and everything that goes on, the crowd, things like that. And yeah, the message it sends to the next generation is not good, is it? That you would rather get a game called off than give them a chance. It's got to change. Hopefully it will change. And hopefully clubs will stop looking for these loopholes and play the damn games. That North London derby was supposed to take place at 4:30 on a Sunday. Okay, it was on Sky. It was a Super Sunday. It's a showpiece. It's the equivalent of Germany's 5 o'clock Saturday, their top spiel. It's the showpiece event of the weekend in the Premier League. It's now going to end up being played on a Wednesday night, a Thursday night. It's not going to be on a Super Sunday anymore, is it? Because they're already going to have games on a weekend, and Sky aren't going to have the slot for it. So, from that point of view, it's now not going to be the showpiece event that it was, and it just baffles me. It really does baffle me. Anyway, this first rant is over. There will be more to come, I am sure. If you did like it, smash a like, subscribe and turn on the notifications as well. And thank you for tuning in, and I will rant at you again very soon. Bye-bye.